Ayurveda. She's completed 5 years of Ayurveda, and then now she's out to improve the tools of teaching Ayurveda. How she feels it can be taught in an easier way, so she's developing tools for that. And what is unique about her is that she was born in the US, raised in the US, but she came to India, she came to Bharat. She and her father both went all over Bharat to find a good Ayurveda institute. So they did a lot of research. I heard that they toured for 1 year to find a good institution, and she gave me a lot of insights about how she selected her school. Like, she told me that some of the institutions have wonderful websites, but they are not doing much work, and eventually they have settled on, she went and studied in BAMS, she studied in STM College of Ayurveda in Hassan, and she completed her education there, and she's an intern there. So without spending too much time on her bio, I just want to say that these are the kind of young people that we want to see, that who know that there is so much knowledge out here in Bharat, and we have to spend time, we have to give our blood and sweat to learn what they have to offer. So it must have been very hard for her to have grown up there in the US and then spending 5 years in Hassan all by herself, studying, adjusting to everything. And now she's out on a mission to teach, to improve the teaching of Ayurveda, I would say. And so let's listen from her what she has been doing. Over to you, Ayurveda. Sriprada, I call you Ayurveda.
Personification.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Ragadirogan satatanushaktan asheshakaya prasritan asheshan autsukya moharatitan jaghana yo purva vaidyaya namostu tasmai. Thank you all for coming for this presentation. I'm so grateful to Indica for organizing this and this opportunity to speak. Today I'll be discussing the pedagogical tools in Ayurveda. And this is going to be such a vast topic, and I'll try to give you glimpses of the interesting aspects. So this is going to be kind of a fun fact session. So what is Ayurveda? This is the only introduction that I'm going to give, as Malaji already spoke about this in detail. Ayusha Sambandhi Veda Ayurveda iti. Ayusha Palakam Vedam Upavedam Atharvanaha. So it is the Upaveda Atharvana. It actually teaches us theoretical and practical tools to learn medicine and surgery. So it is not just the science of medicine or surgery, but in fact, in addition to all of this, it teaches us the aspects of how to lead life. And that is the essence of Ayurveda. So these are the table of contents where I have classified some of the areas where I felt it's very interesting to observe the pedagogy used. And in Sushruta Samhita we see surgical pedagogy, and then we see the need to introduce allied sciences. Why should an Ayurvedic doctor study something which is not an Ayurvedic subject? And then we see the Buddhi Medha Karagana. And also in this context I'll talk about the Charaka Samhita's Medhya Rasayanas. And from Sharangadhara Samhita and Ashtami Hridaya, these are all texts I'm referring to, and this uses the analogy, the Upamana Pramana as a pedagogical tool. And then we see in the Vaidya Jivana of Lolimba Raja, who is a 17th century AD author, who is an Ayurvedic poet actually. So he composes literature and poetry and teaches Ayurveda to his wife Ratnakala in the form of riddles. And so it's a very interesting place to look at. And then we have Charaka Samhita, which talks about storytelling as a pedagogical tool in understanding the knowledge transmission, and also disease pathology. So medical pedagogical oath is also present, just like the Hippocrates oath is present. And then we have ethics and value-based education, and selection of a medical treatise. What is the criteria to observe whether this text is authentic or not? And how do we select that this teacher has all the good qualifications of a teacher? And what are the learning and teaching methodologies present? These are in detail explained explicitly. So these are not things that I have assumed, but rather the last few points that you see in this presentation, the 2nd to 6th points, they're explicitly mentioned that this is how a teacher should be, this is how teaching should take place, this is how learning should take place. So I'll get into the subject. Surgical pedagogy. So in this, there is a Yogya Sutriya Madhyayam in Charaka Sutrasthana, which talks about so many surgical methods, and some of them are the Ashtavidha Shastra Karma, which are Chedanam, Bhedanam, Lekhanam, Eshanam, and then we have Aharana, Vistravana, Sivana. And each of these, it tells you how to perform this and how to practice. So it says in the Yogya Sutiyam Adhyayam, Yogya Samyak Karma Abhyasaha. What is yoga? It is actually the practice. It is the good practice, and once you get practice, you get the siddhi. Abhyasat prapyate siddhi. And then Vedana. So I'll just get a few examples. So in Lekhana, you see, how do you practice scraping? You use the hairy leather of some animals. And how do you practice excision? You use a watermelon. Try to excise from a watermelon. And you see, these methods are both sustainable, easy to get, economically feasible. And in that era, they had used these methods. And definitely we can incorporate these methods which don't require plastic and other dangerous items. And then we see the need for allied sciences. This is a very interesting point that Sriprada Acharya himself mentions. Ekam shastram adhyano navidyat shastra nishchayam tasmat bahushruta shastram vijanyat chikitsakah. Student must know various shastras, and we see this also in the example of Vaidya Jivana, which I'll show you, where there's a riddle. And you see how he uses various shastras to come to teach his wife about Ayurveda. And that's a beautiful instance that I'll talk about. And the Buddhi Medha Gana. So how do you practice? What are the ways in which you can improve your intellect and your knowledge, supreme knowledge? And these are Satatadhyayanam, Vadaha, Paratantravalokanam, Tadvidyacharya Sevacha, Buddhi Medha Karo Ganaha. So what are the 4 ways we can improve? By continuously studying. It says in the learning methodologies that you must study continuously, morning, evening, night. A student's job is only to study, and nothing else is described. Study means not only one thing, but as I mentioned, allied sciences. And then we have Vada, discussions and debates, and Paratantravalokanam, the same concept of exploring other branches of the same science, and serving the Gurus, which is already mentioned in detail by all the eminent speakers before me. And Medhya Rasayana, which is talked about by Charakacharya himself. A few examples of these are how can we intake. So this is definitely something which can be incorporated in any student's life. Taking of Manduka Parani Svarasa, taking the juice of that plant, or Yashti Madhu with milk, or you see Guduchi Svarasa, Shankha Pushpi paste. So all of these are good for improving your mental and intellectual capacity and getting the knowledge easier. The Dharana and Grahana Shakti, everything improves with this. So this is something which we can definitely include and teach students, that these are some ways in which you can improve your intellect. And analogy as a pedagogical tool. So here we see this in the Sharangadhara Samhita. Pittam Pangu Kapha Pangu Pangavu Maladhatavaha Vayuna Yatra Niyante Tatra Gachanti Meghavat. This is so beautiful that even people who can't understand abstract concepts like Vata, Pitta and Kapha, through this they can understand that Pitta is lame, Kapha is lame, they cannot move. They require Vata, who is full of movement and Chalaguna, and he can take them just like the wind takes the clouds. And that's an example given here. Another thing is given here, and this talks about the dangers of excessive use of your indriyas for any activity, how that leads to disturbance in Vata. So now, before we looked at how Pitta and Kapha are lame, we need Vata as their savior to take them places. Now we see how dangerous Vata can be. If the ruler is not good, then the rest of the people are not. So here it says, Vyayama Jagarat Vastri, Hasi Bhashyadi Sahasam, Gajam Simha Iva Darshan, Bhajanati Vinishyati. So if you try to exert in exercise, in talking too much, laughing too much, staying awake, etc., all of these are so detrimental. Even actually Adhyayana is also one of these things which, if you excessively study loudly, it wastes your energy a lot. So this is also one place where we should keep caution. And how does it, he gives a simile that just as a lion which is pulling an elephant towards his cave after killing it, that is a stupid activity because the lion is small and the elephant is huge. It will harm itself in this process. So that's what is given here. And then we see poetry. This is the part I was talking about. Rupam kidrak kamalavadani nuppare saugire syat sambuddhit kamadhura vachane kagni bijasya shashti kasya kvathashvasana shamanu ballavene prishta vidvatvandya drutamidamadatsa taram nagarasya So this is a riddle given by Loliparaja. So here in this context we can analyze it in these elements. The Guru is Loliparaja, the Shishya is Ratnakala, and the elements of Priya Sambodha are seen, which I'll talk about in the next. The type is a riddle. The time period, as I mentioned, is 17th century, and the prerequisite knowledge for this is Sanskrit grammar. And those of you who understand can also try to start guessing the answer. But before that, so the first question they ask is, what is the Prathama Ekavachana of Nuhu? And he addresses her Kamala Vadani, one who has such a beautiful lotus-like face. And what is the synonym for Giri in Sambodhana Prathama Ekavachana? And he says here, Madhura Vachane, sweet, one who speaks sweet words. What is Shashti Vibhakti of Agni Bija? Hey Vallabha, you are my supreme lover. And which Shwasana Shavana Katha is it? Is the final question. So she has to come up with the answer using the previous three. If you look at the answer, Vidvat Bandhya, so Ratnakala is being addressed as a praised scholar. His wife is being given so much importance as a student, but instilling her with confidence. And answers it in one word, saying it is Nagarasya, because Na is the answer for the first, Agaha is the second, and then Asya is the third. So ginger decoction is useful in the treatment of dyspnea, is the whole conclusion of this. And so what is the result of this is, this riddles create so much interest in us. I bet even this was so engaging for you. Even if you are not from a medical background, you would have got some interest into it. And also we see that relationship between the husband and the wife was of a guru and shishya. And the guru accommodating teaching methods to suit the nature of the student. So here in this case it is the wife. So we don't want to talk about it as if she is a very small child. So how does he address her? With using romantic poetry as a genre in several instances across that text. And then also, he's a versatile teacher. He's conveying so many topics now. He has Sanskrit grammar he's talking about, and then he has the topic of medicine, of course, and poetry. So many versatile topics which are being included in one thing. And then we look at storytelling. This is an interesting point. Comes in the first chapter of Ashtanga Hridaya, and it is about Ayurvedasya Avatarana. I'll not chant everything, but let me tell you. So Brahma to Daksha Prajapati to Ashwini Kumaras to Indra. That is how it comes, how Ayurveda is said to have come, descended. So in this context, we can understand Brahma as the Atman and Daksha as the Manas, and then Ashwini Kumara, the both of them as the Buddhi together, and Indra as the Indriyas. So how do we perceive knowledge? Actually, if you think about it, this shloka contains the inner meaning of how we perceive knowledge. And the Pratyaksha Pramana aspect as well as the Atma Jnana is conveyed here. So Atreya is said to be the sensory stimulus who is conveying the message in the Charaka Samhita. It's mentioned Atreya as the Guru and Agnivesha as the Shishya. So Agnivesha is going to respond by writing the Charaka Samhita. So he has written it through mota and it's coming through sensory. So this is a whole way of how we process information, what comes out through it's expressed through our soul, converted into our mind, and then comes through intellect and all that. And then another way where pathology is taught through mythological stories, and the origin of fever is actually taught through Daksha Yajna, the story of Daksha Yajna. Everybody knows about it already. I won't talk about it, but basically when the mind is disturbed, it is considered that it's because of asatmi indriyartha sanyoga. You're taking some objects which are not good for you. Eating an ice cream will hurt your agni, your internal digestive fire. Similarly, Daksha does not give harvest to Shiva, who is actually the essence of the sattva. And because of that, he suffers the consequences. And the story goes on, and it goes on to, you can see the comparison here briefly. The bricks in the Daksha Yajna represent the stomach, the Homa represents the digestive fire, Daksha Prajapati is the Manas himself, as we saw in Ayurvedasya Avatarana. And then Veerabhadra, who is the Vikrita Avastha of Shiva, is actually the doshas, Rajas and Tamas. So they are the initiation of doshas. And then we see Devas, Gandharvas and all the other people there. As we can compare them to the whole body, all parts of the body. And what is the whole parts of the body? That is how fever travels, right? The heat is spread throughout. So Veerabhadra is causing damage to all of the people in the Yajna Kunda. And then Shiva is disturbed. And this means the sattva, the balance of mind, is disturbed. And Sati, what happens to her? She jumps into the fire. What does that mean? The immunity is gone. The immunity has gone and you have got ama. So now you have to read for Amma. How beautifully the pathology of fever is explained through a story. And this could be a really useful tool for understanding. And the moral of the story, of course, is using the importance of this fever, origin of fever, to understand why Agni is important, why we should maintain Agni. And Theraka pedagogical oath, everybody has already talked about Brahmacharina, Mashrudharina, Satyavadina, how a student should be. Important aspects here are Amamsadena. So here we can see that Ayurveda was taught to people of all varnas, people who ate mamsam and who did not. But when you are a student, you are not supposed to eat. And also it mentions here Ashastradharina. So Brahmanas were not allowed to carry weapons in general. Wouldn't it be redundant to say that line? Ashastradharina. If it was only taught to Brahmanas, there is no need of telling that line. But he mentions it because in Sushruta Samhita, it is mentioned that people of all varnas can study Ayurveda, but their purpose is different depending on their category. And we can compare it today to actually Brahmanas being the teachers who are going to guide all other varnas in terms of research, and then the Vaishyas being businessmen, Kshatriyas being the Raja Vaidyas or royal kings. So these are the ways we can look at that concept. Then we have pedagogy and medical ethics. So Bhaskar Govind Ganekarji, so he has written Vaidyakiya Subhashita, not written but compiled so many references from many places across the Shastras, and gave us a tool in which we can use value-based education to study Ayurveda. This is actually part of the BAMS syllabus even today. So in Sanskritam we learn how a person should be. Why are we studying Vaidya? It is considered that Vaidya Samapto Vishaja Dvija Smita. So he is considered that it is his third birth, or rather it's almost his third birth when he is becoming a Vaidya, because he gets the Sattva of Brahma or Arshas into him. So actually Brahma is inside him after studying so much of knowledge. So that's the respect. And what are you doing to keep up your status is what is mentioned here. Dharmartham Nardha Kamartham. You should not do it for any other material gains, but rather only for the reason of dharma. And what is the negative and positive statements used in the same context is Te hitva kanchanam rasham pamshu rasham upasate. So if you are not following what I am saying, it means that you are throwing away a bag of gold for just a heap of dust. And that bag of gold is your punya karma you get from doing Vaidya for free. And then the papa karma is that heap of the heap of dust is actually the material gains that you get. And here you have nahi jivita danati danam anyat vishishyate. There is no better danam that you can do than giving of life, because that helps to fulfill the purusharthas. And then we have so many topics about selection of a medical treatise, how you should select a treatise, what are the criteria. Charakacharya himself mentions, you check and 100% my treatise is correct because it follows all these methods, and he gives these guidelines. He gives the qualifications of a teacher, how a teacher should be. He should have clear knowledge. He should be free from ego, envy and anger. And an important point in this is Aptopadesha Pramanam, which is considered the best Pramanam, Shabda Pramanam. So Apta is considered to be one free from doubts, and because their memory is not impaired, and they have the authoritative command on the subject. And the person who is making false claims can never be an Apta. And this person has knowledge of past, present and future, and he is free from Rajas and Tamas, therefore you should trust him. This is the reason why he will never tell a lie, and Satyam is given utmost importance in this regard. Teacher-student relationship is also described as a father-son relationship, worshipping the Guru, and we already know about these things. Learning methodologies, Adhyayanam, Adhyapanam, Tadviti, Sambhasha. And then the method of study, how you have to maintain personal hygiene during studies, physical and mental hygiene. And then we have teaching methodology. In the context of teaching methodology, the seeking or praying for an ideal disciple comes in, as Lalita ji was mentioning. So here, how do you examine who is the ideal disciple? Here you have interesting points about physical and mental fitness of the student. How do you decide who is the right student? Here it says
2 minutes.
Yeah. Defective tongue and nose cause improper utterance of the text and cause mispronunciation. Therefore, this is my understanding of what was mentioned previously, that he should have a straight tongue, he should have a thin, clear tongue, red tongue. So why would they talk about so many, it sounds weird that the tongue of the student should be straight. Now modern people may think it's weird, but there was a reason for that, because we should not have defective pronunciation. And similarly, sense organs should be good for having the tool of Dashina Pariksha and Pratyaksha Praman in order to do clinical diagnosis. And then for reason for taking family background into consideration, we learned about the jatis already. And the mind of the student plays an important role, or else he will rob both the money of the patient and also his life. So that's one thing. And discussions, we have Sadhaya Sambhasha, Vigrihya Sambhasha, how to conduct a discussion, how to conduct debates, how do you choose your opponent, what are the qualities on the basis of which you choose your opponent, and what is their level, are they Pravara, Sama or Madhyama, or sorry, Pratyavara. And assemblies, the way and what kind of assemblies should you participate in. Yesterday we already saw the Vakyartha Sadas. That is a perfect example of this. We need not talk about it, but the same used to happen for Ayurveda itself. Historical debates are also present in these contexts. And it would look like this on the concept of how many rasas exist. You have Bhadrakapya scholars saying there's only one, Udaka, and some say there are 8. So they give their own justifications and their Purva Paksha, and everything is given in detail. These are documented debates. And the summary of this is we have Tadvidya Sambhasha, we read and we understand. And then we have, teach to apply. And then first we do Adhyayana, Adhyapana, Tadvidya Sambhasha. This is of course already talked about the research methodologies in Upanishads, and similarly it's present in Ayurveda as well. These are my sources. Thank you so much for your attention.